Mission Peak, early February. Pretty good day. Got there a little late. Carl Almendinger and Paul Clayton were already in the air on their topless gliders and were doing very well. A couple paragliders in the air, doing very well. So seemed like a good day to fly my Freedom. It's a glider I had anyway. So flew around. While I was driving up, the clouds looked beautiful. Planned on flying up to them, but wasn't feeling it that day. So it was very soarable. So I just kind of stayed around launch and the ridge, soaring, and ended up playing with a couple red tails, which was awesome. And then got up high enough, feel comfortable to make runs out away from the ridge, and did that a few times, and ended up getting a little low and hooking a thermal with some golden eagles and getting back up. So of course did another run out low, and this time I was looking like I was going to land, but I had flown almost long enough. I wish I would have flown another 15-20 minutes, because at that point it had only been a half hour. So I was real happy when I hit these little bumps. I always look kind of on the edge of these houses. I figure, the asphalt's baking, and, look at the black right there in that asphalt of that court. Houses, black roofs, and a lot of it is just it gives shelter for the heat to build, out in that big field to the left where the LZ is. It's sitting in the sun, but it's also got a breeze going through it most of the time. So thermal collector has to let the heat build near the ground. This thermal, I hit it a lot, and I usually fail on it, actually, to tell you the truth. Usually just kind of zero sink in it a while, but I'm really feeling, getting to know this glider and feeling like I can do this, and I'm really trying to keep it balanced really well. I know there's going to be a drift, so I'm just going to try and keep the same bank when I hit the good stuff. Do as little as possible. See, I'm not doing much pitch correction. It's mostly roll correction. If I do it soon enough, I don't have to give a lot of pitch. Any pitch is going to pull me down. I'm just trying to go up here. Look how fast I'm drifting over to this ditch here. So I'm going to cut to the rear view. Back to the very start when I'm kind of skirting that final tree line, looking for any kind of bubble. I've definitely climbed out from this low before, but I think this is the lowest I've ever caught it on video. So that was a lot of fun, but definitely at this point I'm not counting on anything. I'm just feeling it. A little dip on the, kind of falling out of the backside, it feels like. That part right there isn't turned, gaining 20 feet, losing 20 feet. So I'm going to try and extend my circle a little straighter. Not much, you don't want to do much. Just a couple bumps on that one, and then start it into a gentle bank. Gotta get it in a gentle bank. If I do any kind of diving turn, I'm trying to let it turn itself. It wouldn't at first, now it started. Now let's see if it wants to dip on that rear side. Nope, stayed a little more solid. Yeah, now I'm just going to try and keep it right there. Do as little as possible, balance it. A little extra energy to put out there, but right away get back in that bank. Yeah, it was trying to push me out to the left a little there. Just trying to enter into that downwind turn gently again. Don't want to have to pull in as it tries to spit you out the back. So it's trying to spit me out the back. That right wing stayed in it though. Now that I know it's that right wing's in it and I'm flat, I can flatten out a little bit more, because I don't want to go near the back again. Well, it didn't want to let me. So I would like to be a little more upwind, but too bad. It dumped me back. I can't do that many corrections this low and this light. So I just kind of, again, carefully carve it around. A lot of times those little dumps will throw you in a nice little extra core you didn't know about. So this one feels pretty good. Still feels like I'm falling out of the back, so I'm trying to extend it just a little on the front. And save a little extra energy so it wants to dump me, I can just let it out. At this point it's not dumping me. I might have a solid This is where I'm just going to work on keeping the same thing. If I can get it to climb all the way around even 10 feet, the 360, I'm good, I'm happy. Because the LZ, look at the LZ, I'm getting closer and higher, so now when I first caught that thermal, one turn and sink, I would have had to run for it. And still had a landable field under me, not like it was dangerous. But I like to land over by the road in the parking lot. Yeah, getting a little bumpy, but I still like that core, so I'm just going to try and keep it right where it was. It was drifting good, it was banking good. Yeah. Actually, that's right. I remember thinking in this flight, fly smoother, because sometimes you'll wake yourself in your own thermal, so try and make this upwind part really smooth. Really smooth, because you fly in your own wake as you go on this downwind part. Yeah. It's like when I teach people on the bunny hole, you can, if you feel it light, you can do small corrections sooner instead of having to do big ones. So I'm trying to anticipate what it's going to do, build enough pressure so that's something to feed out, like right there. That would have been a diving turn, but I just let it out a little bit and coordinated it, so yeah, this wasn't a gimme low save. This was definitely a lot of fun. People talk about how high did you get during the flight. I want to know how low you got. Well, it's pushing me back up this valley. A lot of times it'll do a little, with the terrain feature it might do a little zig or a zag, but I'm not going to worry about it if I can just keep it in that nice bank. Yeah, it's looking pretty solid here. This is a part that was not doing so good early in it. Now look at, I'm getting my best climb on that downwind part. So I don't want to mess around and extend that upwind part. It's better to fall out of the front of the thermal and hit the best lift on this part of it. Look at how I'm getting the best lift here, and then I can just, well, that one I banked it around. But a lot of times you'll just level out for a second and then just dive it right back. Like that right there. Okay, that was a 360 early. And as soon as you do the correction to level it out, do the correction to start the turn again. Don't let it level out. Just do a pause and then get it back into that sweet bank. Yep, see how I have the nice best part of the climb and the tailwind part of the 360. A lot better to fall out of the front of the thermal. You get back in it faster, and it doesn't seem to be as sinky usually upwind too. You fall out of the back, you get a lot of sink, and the inner wingtip stalls and spins you down. So I'm not worried about falling out there. And I remember during this flight a couple times the left wing felt like it fell out, but the right wing kept flying, so I just let the right wing ride. Yep, this is where it starts getting a little easier. I'm a little higher, still has the big drift. And contouring the ground. I think this is kind of like the same thermals I hit at 11, but the terrain feature slopes away. So the thermals just go across the same direction, but here the ground rises, and now I'm right across from the LZ. I'd have a crosswind, slight headwind run from here. But I know this site good enough to know that in this kind of wind that I'm still planning easy glide to the LZ. Yeah, right there over my shoulder. Yeah, it gets pretty sweet right here. You can see it kind of going up that spine. Spines and bowls. This is where I kind of expected it to do something different again, just like over by that other spine. It was really northy this day, so I know the flow is a lot across the hill, so I have to be careful about going behind this little spine where this rock is on. I want to make sure I have that nice solid core. Right now, yeah, something's happening. Kind of choppy, extending my upwind leg a little. Getting right over that rock. And I want to try and keep it tight and stay in front of it if I can for a turn or two. If it goes up enough, you're fine going behind it, but that's something that I want to keep a glide over that rock. That's kind of what I'm, a marker. If I get behind that spine, I'm in the lee side of that ridge. So I want to stay over that spine, not the one that road's going down. I guess it is that one the road's going down. But obviously this bowl right here, I don't want to go behind without a nice core bringing me up. Kind of going off the shoulder of it, so I have a glide out right there. Plenty high over those rocks, and the thermal doesn't seem to be as affected by the terrain features. Gets a little more solid again. Seems to be zigging up towards the back ridge a little bit, which I like. I don't want to get drawn back into that valley. And just, found a nice sweet spot again and trying to basically keep it in that same bank. Did one of my little pauses there. See how I paused it and just bumped it right back over. Getting the best climb in that downwind part of the thermal again, it looks like. Just trim, trying to anticipate so I can build just enough pressure I need to see how much I move my body, but the glider's keeping that nice steady bank. No pitch, no roll adjustment to the glider, even though my body's moving. Trying to dampen out the surges of the glider. Build a little bit of pressure with the surge, and when it wants to drop you, you can let that out a little bit, just to keep that inside wingtip flying. Now it's kind of pulling me back behind that ridge I didn't want to get behind. So I'm going to do a little test run to the left to see if, the thermal, it feels like it's pulling me into that valley, but I want it to follow that ridge right by my left arm there more, and nope, it doesn't seem to want to do that. The windsock was blowing across the ridge pretty hard when I launched, and when last time I'd seen it, so thermals are drifting across the hills, not up the hill. So see how it's kind of pulling me back into that valley. So there's another ridge there that I definitely don't want to go behind. So I still have the LZ. On this glider I have to be a little careful because it doesn't have VG single surface. On my T2 I would not worry about this altitude here at all. I could glide there and back. Single surface, I'm not worried, and obviously plenty of places I could land in between there, but this next, I'm kind of already left that spine I wanted to follow and took the thermal all the way across this valley, and now I'm hitting the next spine, and the next spine is actually the big spine between Ed11 and Mission, kind of the point of no return. Just doing 360s, people would talk about, following the drift of a glider, or of a thermal. If you just do 360s and the thermal's drifting, you'll drift with it. So just, I do those pauses to adjust it, and here I was getting to that other ridge, so I want to do a test run to see if while that thermal was pulling me up the spine, it might have been filling in more of the canyon. So I have a glide to the LZ, but I really want to be over that spine that I was trying to get over before, so see how I'm right in front of that spine that I don't want to go behind. Seeing if that thermal filled in the top of this valley. It didn't seem to, so now I'm going to try and glide across the valley and get as high as I can on that spine on the other side. If I hit some sink, I might have to go to the left on the lee side of that spine to the LZ, which wouldn't be fun because I would be in sync and the chances of getting a thermal are slim. So I'm going to fight to the top as high as I can with enough room to try and soar up into this little bowl here. Look at that bowl, looks like a catcher's mitt. And that's really close. I mean, I was riding a thermal that was going right up that spine, right to the left, right where my left elbow is. And look at that big knob to the right. So a catcher's mitt with a little outlet at the top to Venturi. And now we go to side view. You can see by my shadow that I'm pretty close to the ground. Obviously want to get in front of that knoll far enough so I can crank a 360, because this isn't very ridge liftable, but I am on a single surface, so doing some reversing 180s is a strategy I have in mind here, to try and bench my way up high enough to get a nice core and 360 up. So yep, right in the little catcher's mitt, hit some lift. I'm going to do a test run, see if I want to crank a 360. Is it ridge lifty thermal, or is it a nice core to crank around in? This is about to hit the point of no return. Do I do the 360? No. It didn't feel good enough. Yeah, you don't want to lose altitude and downwind at the same time. You have to be real careful with those downwind turns in sync when it's that drifty. So I'm just using the single surface. Hit a nice bubble to see how banked over I am, though. I'm really trying to be careful about drifting back behind that spine. Definitely got something now. You can see how one flat turn and I'm going to be behind that spine again, so trying to flat turn on the upwind side and come around sharper on the downwind side without changing the banker pitch. A little tough. Just delicate flying, letting the glider float itself basically. You just have it in this gentle bank, letting it just go. Look how little I'm moving. Oh, it's getting a little sticky. Should I 360? No, it might take me behind the spine. That might be a big thing I can turn real flat and left in. See how big it is. A little exploring. It must have felt pretty big. Yeah. It's not as lifty, but it's big, so I'm going to try a nice flat turn. Actually almost seemed like a better day to be on a topless glider. Carl and Paul were doing really well, and I noticed Mark wasn't getting up high and doing that much either, even though there didn't seem to be a lot of sync in between the thermals. Seemed like the thermals were choppy enough that I think the topless glider's sync rate could have carved around in a big circle and got through that that stuff that would sink me down, even though there were good surges of lift. So just kind of feeling it out. I definitely feel like I've had a low save here, but I would like to get above the ridge. Usually count 1,000 feet of climb as a low save. Yeah, I think I climbed 1,000 feet here, but a top landing would be a nice triumph. I think you're going to land at the bottom and then you land on top. So this whole bowl pretty much filled in, so right now it's kind of like flying at Funston. If I'm on a light day, if I'm just delicate on my flying and just when I hit a bubble, just kind of let it carve around a little bit. Zero sinking is fun. Maintaining, waiting for it to get better. Right now there's a lot of sun hitting the ground. See some little cloud shadows by the peak, but there was some real shaded areas coming in. And now I see some shadows coming in, so that shows a wave of clouds is coming in. It's pretty much parallel to me. So I'm expecting the lift to get more vigorous. You can see the clouds forming on the ground. You don't need to look up. You glance up to see the clouds every once in a while, but Best way to see clouds is on the ground. You can see the shadows are light, you can see the movement, you can see more about the clouds actually looking at the clouds on the ground. See the shadow of it with the light shining through, where it's getting darker, how it's getting darker, where, you know, sometimes, some days the lift is in the, where right over the front edge of the shadow, some days the lift is right over the rear edge of the shadow. Yeah, see, look at the drift of those clouds, just, it's getting darker, thicker, but it's still staying nice and sunny upwind, so getting some nice lift now. And the clouds are getting more above me and behind me, whereas they were just kind of over the peak. And then over by the peak and launch, yeah, look how much that's shading in now. Now I got a little westy cycle. That thermal was pushing me behind the spine. Now look how it's kind of pushing me up this draw right towards the back ridge. Yeah, I'm over the back ridge now. So now I'm looking at there's a top landing spot here we call the roost. So I'm thinking, well, I could just top land here to make sure if I don't get high enough to get, because launch is still pretty far upwind of me. I could sink out trying to get back to launch. And yeah, look, the sun's hitting the roost. It's fully shaded right above me. Obviously there's there's a cloud forming above me that's the thermal I'm riding in. And look at all the sun still upwind, so that's going to keep feeding it. A lot of times, you know, the clouds at the Mission ridges and a lot of sites, it stays clear over the valley, so the sun is heating, and then the clouds just develop over the hills. If it starts shading in the whole valley, then the lift can diminish from, you know, increased solar heating. Yep. And that sucker, see how I'm not even going behind that spine, it's just sucking right up that draw. Starting to look down on the roost, maybe not high enough to land it. Yeah, a little tight to land it at this point, but I can look up on as high as the roost. The shade, look, the shade's totally filled in now. But the lift is still great. There's even sun behind it. Yep, now I could probably crank a quick approach and land the roost, but part of the deal, kind of like what I was talking about earlier about the thermal, if I did a quick downwind base final there, I'd probably be landing in my own rotor, and I would be diving downwind of this thermal that I'm riding, so it would be turbulent. That's where, you know, I'm still trying to be conservative on this glider. I don't know it that well yet. Maybe on my Sport 2 I would pull something like that, but still getting to know this glider. Now I'm kind of getting in that same situation where I'm on the back ridge. The thermal isn't climbing enough. I can't really follow it further back because I'm basically going to be over flat ground. So I know Mission real well, and a lot of times when this thermal fills in, this whole ridge fills in, it kind of turns into a little Funston area where you don't get a real solid lift, but you get like 2 or 3 good surges, so you can kind of do the 180 flying, where you just fly along and try and maintain your lift as much as possible. I know it's northwest, so I'm going to try and get on this knob, get a little bit in front of it. And yep, when you hit the lift, let it turn you. Let it turn you and lift you. Go back for that other bubble that you know. I mean, there's a thermal I just rode up right over here, right? I don't have to do a 360 in it. I'll just, when I hit that thermal, yeah, just try and milk it. That tree is my reference. I don't even need a vario here. Oh, get back to that ridge. Yeah, see, I'm kind of yawing, just letting it lift me towards the ridge, but I'm ready to turn away. Yeah, so there might be a little rotary stuff with how northwesty it was. Northy is really over the back, so northwesty. So once again, I mean, picture this as like the Waddell thing, but obviously it's inland, so I don't want to get as close as Waddell. But I know where the good lift would be at Waddell, so the good lift should be, get around to this point. Inland flying, you never know. Didn't hit the lift, and at this point, eyeing running for the peak. I get this whole valley kind of fills in sometimes. I can get a nice bubble over to the right. I'll just kind of cut across right. You want to be above the rocky area though. You can see how I'm right about the lower part of the rocks. So I want to make sure I get a surge as I come over this next spine, and I can follow these trees up. If I can get a lift line up over these trees, I can just connect over to the peak. But there's a real plateau in front of the peak, so you can't, if it just dropped off, you wouldn't have any problem, but see where all the tree shadows is. It's actually a downhill. It's not even a plateau, it's more of a bowl. But obviously that front ridge, where those trees are, has more feeding it than the peak. So I'm kind of starting to hit that lift you get on that front ridge right here. Hoping to connect, one of the best thermals you get ever at Mission is actually usually goes up this shoulder of the peak following those trees that kind of line up with my body. Every time I've got my highest. So there's the hawk. So it looked like the same hawk I flew with at the ridge, and this was just amazing. He came and played with me, and I'm talking to him or her, and see how she pulls up right next to me and just flies wingtip to wingtip. I'm so glad I put my video on the left wing. That was really flapping, flying. Oh my god. Just keep doing this. This is epic. Love it. But there it's diving on me again. And coming back up to fly right next to me. See how I'm following the line of those trees. If I got a good surge, I might crank it 360 to the right and follow it back towards the peak. But yeah, I've never had to land in that little plateau bowl thing, and I don't want to. Not only, it would be a bad place to land, but I just don't want to. It would be a hassle. It would be embarrassing. Not that worried about embarrassing, but unsafe. Yeah, I'm so close to the train, it's got to be a real good one to crank a 360, so I'm just trying to milk it and porpoise fly. Hope that it's coming straighter into the ridge so I can get over the next little ridge coming up right in front of launch. I'm almost, at this point, high enough to top land at launch, but not really. Especially because I'm going to leave. You can see how the two spines kind of meld together, and it gets a little flatter up here, so this is usually a little hole. It's actually the place you go, on the southy days. 11 turns into Mission, and Mission turns into the 11, so it's really bad. You never want to fly Mission with any kind of southy to it. But if you do end up in the air, this is the only area that really works. There's bowl straight ahead, but in this situation, I'm expecting to hit some lift with some wraparound coming around the spine. You can see that tree. So I'm waving at some hikers. That tree right over my right shoulder, right over my head. That's kind of my marker of I need to make it over that or go around it. I don't want to mess with that tree because that's where the spine really drops off. You get in front of launch, and if you can get over that tree, you're going to be in some lift 9 times out of 10. But if you have to go around it to the left, it's a little scratchier. You're probably going to make it. But I've flown here long enough. That tree has been a marker for a lot of years, and I'm really working at trying to make it over that tree. Yeah, it's got some pretty good buoyancy here. Obviously ready to pull in and dive, get away from rotor if it's cross. And now at this point I'm getting into the stuff that funnels up in front of launch. You have a venturi between the main ridge and the launch ridge. So that tends to make this an excellent flying site, because once you're in this area, it gets lifty. I'm feeling pretty safe here, even though you can see I'm nowhere near the top of the ridge. So I'm into this nice, like where I was way back to the south, a catcher mitt type bowl. And this has a lot more feeding it. Yeah, pretty relaxed at this point. I know there's good lift here. I can just kind of play around at this point. Just do some 180s. Already getting above the ridge, just doing the 180s. And that big catcher's mitt. And high enough to crank a 360 or 2. I got it now. Yep. Above launch. Took a while, but I enjoy it, so longer the better, as long as I did it.